We never thought about what our parents thought about us picketing. We just did what we thought was right. But the butler brought it home about how our parents might have felt and how it might have affected them. I can remember my mother working at the Dinkler Plaza. When Dr. King received the Nobel Peace Prize, her daughter walked in with the rest of the others to integrate that, celebrate his honor him at the Nobel Peace Prize dinner that we had for him. So I am getting very nervous. I don't know what's wrong with me. Excuse me.
No problem. And I, go ahead, take a sip, and while you take a sip,
Okay.
I thought that was so interesting that your mother was working at the athletic club,
Uh-huh.
and
The
you had to
Dinkin.
march right in front, right?
Sure did. The backside of Macys was Carnegie Way. And that was the front side of the Atlanta Athletic Downtown Club. So it was very interesting to see me picketing right in front of my mother's job. But she never got any repercussions from it, thank God. But, you know, that's just how bold we were. We didn't fear anything. I'm not going to say I don't fear things now. Sometimes I look back and say, Lord, have mercy. Did I do that? But we did. We really did.
And her coworker said,
You better get Cookie out there. Oh, Mr. Harrison sees her. He was the big boss there.
okay. The Atlanta Inquirer, what was the impact of the Inquirer on the Atlanta student movement?
The Atlanta Inquirer was the medium we used to get out our message. And I think some of the other newspapers were a little intimidated. So that was like the student paper. So anything that was going on in the civil rights movement, that paper would publish it. As I think back, I don't think the Atlanta World did a lot. I really don't. But that was the paper that helped us. And whenever anything was going on, we could always refer to that paper. So that was really, it was our paper. It was the movement, the student movement paper, because it would tell whatever was going on. I think they did put a copy of the Appeal for Human Rights in there. It's my understanding that I think Vanderveer was the governor then, and he was very adamant in saying that no students wrote the Appeal for Human Rights, as if to imply we weren't smart enough to do that. But yes, a very smart young lady did write the Appeals for Human Rights, along with Lonnie King and some others.
And let's talk about the impact of the movement lawyers on the Atlanta student movement.
The movement lawyers were very focal and very important to us because they had to be there for us to, for those of us who decided to go to jail. So they were very, very important to us. And I understand that the NAACP, I can't think of this fund they had that was designated to get most kids out of jail. And I understand they did it all over the nation. Because my husband was a freedom rider, and he was part of the group from CORE that was assisted through the legal defense fund, the legal defense fund.
And that was a perfect segue if you want to talk about the impact that the freedom riders had on, you know, advancing the civil rights movement.
Okay.
You know, and any students you may have known that joined the freedom riders.
Well, one student was my husband, Larry Hunter. He was with the Nashville, Tennessee State 14, the Nashville 14. They decided to join Jim Farmer who was head of corps. And there was also another movement with the American Baptist College where John Lewis went, and James Bevel, and Fisk University where Diane Nash led the movement. But there were 14 students from Tennessee State who went to Jackson, Mississippi, and were incarcerated. And as a result, Tennessee State expelled them. Now that 14 took Tennessee State they sued them, and they won their lawsuit. But some of the 14 of the students were expelled, and some didn't come back, and my husband was one of them. Some 45 years later, 40-ish, 45, 43 years later, Tennessee State, through the Board of Regents, agreed to award all 14 students of Tennessee State, Doctorate of Humanities degrees. And they are doctors now. And I say it very proudly, my husband is Dr. Larry F. Hunter. But they forged their movement was going on. And I think the Nashville movement started before Atlantis did. But it was interesting how Nashville, Atlanta, and I believe North Carolina also had started a movement. So the timing was right, and we were right for the picking, and we were ready to go. So we knew no fear. We just did what we felt we needed to do.
Any specific stories with the Freedom Riders?
Yeah, the night Dr. King had them in his church, I believe it was Reverend Evan's church at that time, they were all there. And that was the night the city of, I believe it was Birmingham? I believe it might have been Montgomery. And they were all in the church, and I think you've probably seen clips of it. But they were threatening to burn that church down at any cost.